Beaute Bar is coming out with a new Winter Perfect palette. This is called Crystallize. We're going to go ahead and do a deep dive. I was particularly inspired by this palette, and to me, this seems like the first true winter color story that I've seen of the year, which is exciting because I love these tones and they always get me in the mood for winter glam. This palette launches Friday, December 5th. It retails for $75 and you can get 10% off if you use a discount affiliate code. I will pop mine up on the screen. If you found my content useful and you use it, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. For me, the star of the show in the Beaute Bar palettes is the shimmers. Though I do find the mattes very easy to work with. In general, they are buildable and blendable. Even the shades that tend to be maybe a little bit more finicky, like pastels. And I really appreciate that in this palette we have multiple kind of iridescence or semi-sheer shades. In terms of what you can do with shades like that, you have a lot of versatility for different layering combos. I also really love to see a palette like this from Beaute Bar because in general we have a bunch of sort of moody and grungy palettes. So I really love that we have one that is straight up ethereal. Here's what the second set of shimmers looks like swatched in the back of my hand. And here is swatches of the whole palette all together. In terms of the mattes, we do have a nice range from light to deep shades, but I would say we in general have more of the lighter pastel tones than the deeper tones. First, we have the shade Moonstone. This is an iridescent that has blue-purple shift in it, with a little bit more blue than purple. You have a medium-sized sparkle particle, so this one is slightly more textured than some of the other iridescent shades. I didn't find any of the shimmers in this palette to be flaky. Next, we have the shade Sunstone. This is what I would consider to be the shiftiest multi-chrome in the palette. It has a medium-sized sparkle particle, a blue base, and a strong yellow, orange, red, and green shift, and you can see that shift better when I do my eye swatch. In my hand swatches, I really enjoy showing the sparkle of each shade. Next, we have the shade Opaline, and I absolutely love the texture of this shade. It's very smooth, and yet this is a very intense iridescent. It has a strong green shift and a secondary blue shift, which you can see in the mirror. Okay, next we have the shade Ice Quartz, and this has a pastel blue-purple base with a red-green shift, and you can see that in the mirror. So I know I said none of the shades are flaky. I would actually say this has a little bit of flakiness to it, but such that you can smooth it out with your finger. Next, we have the shade Amazonite, and this has a semi-sheer base, a pale kind of golden champagne base, and a strong blue-green shift. And the sparkle particles in this one are medium in size. All right, next we have the shade Hematite. This is a very deep blue-purple. It's smooth in texture, it has multicolored sparkles, and it's got a reddish pink shift. Really pretty shade, but I do also have to mention this one will stain. Next we have the shade Violet Agate, and this I would describe as a mid-toned blue-purple, and it has a pinkish shift. It has a medium-sized sparkle particle, and it's very shiny and reflective. Last but not least, we have the shade Lapis Lazuli. This is my favorite shimmer in the palette. It's an electric, semi-sheer blue-purple. It has a medium-sized sparkle particle, and I just can't get over how glowy this shade is. All right, for my first look, I'm going to show you how I created this eye look by using a tutorial from one of my favorite creators on Instagram. Her name is Lau, and she is based in China. She has done several palettes in collaboration with Cbeautymall brands, and she does some of the most fantastic, beautiful looks that I've seen. So I am going to put her name and her handle on the screen, as well as just showing you some of her representative work, because if you're not following her and you like fun kind of editorial makeup looks and you love playing with color, I highly recommend checking out her work. All right, let's go ahead and play with some color. So we're gonna start off with this really kind of deep matte with shimmer called Obsidian, and we're going to put that in the outer corner. I am happy that we get a good range in the depths of the mattes in here. We have some light, mid-tones, and deeper shades. And that just allows for a more complete look. All right, now I'm just going to soften up the edges a little bit with this more muted tone, kind of gray purple shade there. Inner portion of the lid, I'm going to go in with this teal matte. Just want to really play around with matte placement. Just want to have fun with this palette. I'm going to go in with this gray matte called Tiger's Eye, just around the edge of that teal matte. And I'm having a nice time with blending the kind of mid-toned mattes. I did have a little bit of trouble with that really kind of deep matte with shimmer, but I was able to soften it a little bit with the gray purple shade. I just have to say, you know, typically I have no issues at all with the mattes, and I did have a little bit of difficulty with the deep matte with shimmer. Now I'm going to go in with Amethyst, just further soften the edges of this shade here, and I just want to use as many shades as possible between my looks. Now we're going to go in with the shade Rose Quartz, this really pretty kind of purple pink pastel matte. Just place it here. We still have to do the lower lash line. And then I'm going to deepen up this outer corner here with the shade Obsidian just a little bit more. Deepen up this outer corner with Obsidian just a little bit. Building some depth here. Now with the shade Rhodonite, actually this looks like it also has some shimmer in it as well. And I'm just going to add a couple of bright pops. One right here under the brow bone. And another on this kind of inner portion. On the lower lash line, I'm just adding a little bit of the Obsidian to connect to the shadow that I have above. And then on the inner portion of the lower lash line, I'm going in again with Rhodonite, that really kind of in with blue agate, and I'm just going to soften up where I placed this kind of deeper matte Obsidian. I'm not used to putting eyeshadow down here, but I really want to play around with it more because I get intimidated of putting kind of too much shadow on the lower lash line. But you can really do some cool looks by just expanding the area that you place the shadow. Now that we've placed the mattes, I think we can go in with shimmers and just have some fun. We're gonna start off with this first one. I think it's Sunstone. The cursive makes it hard for me to read all the shades, but yeah, oh, that's so pretty. Fiery toned shift there. And then on the inner portion of the lid, what do we want to use? I think we're going to use this iridescent shade called Moonstone. And then I'm also going to place a little bit of Moonstone on the lower lash line. I'm going to go in with this deep kind of blackened purple with red sparkles on the outer corner. Now we're going to go in with the shade Opalite. This is such a smooth, beautiful shade. So I'm going to add a little bit on this inner portion and then sweep it. Last but not least, we're going to use some of this really glowy blue-purple lapis lazuli and just place it underneath the brow bone. Oh, that's so pretty. Might be my favorite shimmer in the palette. It's just so glowy. Semi-sheer shimmers like these always do it for me. Finishing off the look with this Cloudicos eyeliner Night of Creation, just gonna add that into the waterline. And here is my first completed look. Just gonna bring you in a little bit closer. I had so much fun with this look, and it reminds me exactly why I love to play around with colorful eyeshadow. All right, for my second look, I really want to do a blue focused look that's kind of in my comfort zone. So I am going to dip into this muted shade here, which is probably honestly my favorite matte in the palette. Love blue, love muted tones, and just going to create a halo shape. Then I am going to add some shadow to this outer corner here. And to blend out around the edges, I'm going to take this shade that's kind of this muted gray tone here, and I'm just going to blend out a little bit around the edges. And then I'm going to do the same on this inner portion, blue here. And to the lower lash line, we're going to go in with the shade Amethyst. To the brow bone, we're going to go in with the shade Jade, which is a kind of muted mint tone. Just add a little bit right under the brow bone. And all over the lid, have to use lapis lazuli. I did prime my lids with the shimmer stay from Clionadh and Bad to the Brow. Here's what it looks like on my fingertip. Favorite shimmer in the palette, for sure. Just have to give it its moment. On the inner corner, we're going to use Opalite. I love this shade because it has such a smooth texture, but it's still so incredibly impactful. I feel like this actually is the type of shade that I will also use as a punchy face highlight. All right, I added some eyeliner and mascara, and this is the second completed look. I'm just gonna go ahead and see if I can show you that sparkle up close a little bit more. All right, now that I've had a chance to go through everything, including doing some detailed swatches, eye swatches, and 2 looks, let's close up with some wrap-up thoughts. So, as you can probably tell, I really enjoyed this palette. This is 20 pans. It does retail for $75, so not insignificant. You can use, of course, a code to save 10%, but honestly, I think in terms of color stories from Bella Beaute Bar, it's probably my top 2 to 3. I definitely really enjoy cool tones. I like blues. We have, you know, some blues in here, some purples, but just a good mix of cool tones. When I think of a winter color story, a dreamy winter color story, I think of something like this. So really love that. I think the shimmers are definitely the star of the show. I wouldn't change a thing about the shimmers. There's 8 shimmers in here, and there's multiple that are really, really special. So I do think that the price point is fair for the quality and the type of shades that you're getting in here. In terms of maybe if I was to be nitpicky, a couple of things that I might change. I actually do like the depth of the palette, especially this matte here. And we get some other deeper mattes too. This muted kind of purple gray toned matte here. I love the muted tones in here, by the way. But I think I would have appreciated maybe having one or two more deep mattes. And I'm not sure exactly what I would sub out for that. I would have to think about that, but maybe one of the other lighter tones, maybe this cream color, but like a cobalt matte, and maybe, or a deep purple matte, I think would be very fitting and would also work. And I would probably get a decent amount of use out of them, even more than this cream matte here. But that being said, I really enjoyed the looks that I created with this palette. I feel inspired to use this palette a lot this winter. And in general, I knew I had to make a video on the palette because I'm very inspired by it, and not just a short video where I do eye swatches or overhead swatches, but one where I created a bunch of looks. And that's what you want from your makeup. You want makeup that makes you want to play with color, feel inspired, all of that good stuff. So with all that being said, I would love to hear about what you think of the palette in the comments. As always, I really hope you found this video helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.